Toward a Eurocentric Global Economic Community. By Carlo Pelanda. Is a new Nova Pax gradually replacing the American Pax? The EU is responding to US pressure and Chinese competition by accelerating free trade customs agreements with multiple nations around the world. This posture increases the likelihood that, in the future, a Eurocentric global economic community may emerge, one capable of producing a balanced reglobalization of trade through the growing integration of dozens of zero or near-zero tariff customs treaties. I outlined a strategic scenario with a reglobalizing objective in 2013, when Barack Obama proposed two US-centric market areas in the Pacific and the Atlantic that would exclude China and Russia. It was a signal of conflictual deglobalization, reinforced by Beijing's symmetrical antagonistic reaction and Moscow's militaristic one, to which it was necessary to oppose, precisely, a reglobalizing strategy in order to avoid a collapse of the international economy. Initially, I focused on shaping an expanded G7+ capable of reaching a larger scale, winning over the global south, and exerting pressure on the Sino Russian bloc, envisioning a selective reglobalization linked to a renewed version of the Cold War between US-led democracies and Chinese-led authoritarian regimes. However, the actions of the first Trump administration reduced the likelihood that the United States could build a more structured and cohesive alliance system. At the same time, it pushed Japan and Canada to sign zero-tariff agreements with the EU, revealing that Washington's Americanist/isolationalist turn, later continued by the Biden administration, albeit with softer tones, was leaving an empty space that the EU could fill. Now, the excesses of Trump's second term have convinced Australia, Mercosur, India, and others to sign or initiate substantial customs agreements with the EU. In summary, the scenario suggests a probabilistic trajectory in which the EU expands globally as a third major actor, projecting itself toward a geoeconomic power potentially superior to that of both the United States and China. Such a scenario is optimal for reversing the decline of Europe's two major manufacturing and export powers, Germany and Italy. Moreover, the EU's expansive geoeconomic posture acts as a force-multiplying umbrella for Italy's economic geopolitics, which aims to extend global bilateral strategic partnerships. However, an excessive distancing between the EU and the United States would be dangerous, given Europe's military power gap. Economic power is correlated with military power, just as international law ultimately rests on dominance, and the EU needs at least 15 years to achieve sufficient deterrence. Furthermore, on the geoeconomic level, the EU cannot do without fluid relations with the United States, and the same is true for America in relation to Europe. Therefore, the project of a global Europe must be calibrated so as to contain divergence from the United States. This criterion brings back into play the idea of an expanded G7 that could, in the long term, merge with the Eurocentric free trade community, giving the global community of democracies a superior power, one capable of generating new international